Donald Trump just said something really delusional. And in fact, if he was a soccer player, this is who he would be.
No. Don't say I'm rolling up and down. I'm playing pure football. The problem is that I think the referee is for them. The referee is for them. I remember I scored a goal. And after jubilating, they cancelled the goal. Why? Because it's for them. It's for them. 2 goals I would have scored. I was heading to the post. The post saw me. And I saw the post. Then immediately I shot the ball. I didn't see the post again. Is that not something? They are using something. Rangers boys are using something. They think we don't know. I saw the post. I shot the ball. The post was no more.
But all jokes aside, the backdrop of this delusion comes following the biggest decline in the first 6 months for the United States dollar since the 1970s. In this video, I'm going to break down the extent to which the dollar is declining, as well as what Africa needs to do to take advantage of this situation. For those of you that don't know, my name is TJ, I'm Nigerian and British mixed, and on this channel, we talk about African geopolitics. So let's take a look at what's actually happening to the United States dollar.
The United States dollar just had its worst 6-month start to a year since 1973. Due to extreme volatility, there may be some ups and downs. You're going to see some ups and downs, but it is the trend that you need to look at, and that downward trend is clear and it is undeniable. In the first half of 2025, the dollar lost over 10% of its value against a basket of major currencies. That's not just a market dip, that is a warning siren, if you will, from the global financial system. And the question on everyone's mind is, what is happening to the dollar, and can it recover? Will it recover?
Overall, the devaluation of the dollar is a definite trend, and the world is noticing. Because everybody trades in the dollar, it's the world's reserve currency, and therefore the United States has a monopoly. This is leverage, and every president since this situation started has used the dollar to weaponize itself against the rest of the world. I made a video yesterday about the BRICS summit happening in Rio de Janeiro that's just wrapping up now. Much of the talk was about de-dollarization, trade, and what the BRICS nations, Brazil, India, Russia, and China, mean to the global economy. Let's take a look at Vladimir Putin's contribution to the summit, because he discusses some quite striking numbers.
Our association has seriously expanded to include the leading nations of Eurasia, Africa, the Middle East, and Latin America. Together we have truly enormous political, economic, scientific, technological, and human potential. The BRICS countries not only account for a third of the Earth's land area and almost half of the world's population, but also 40% of the world economy. The combined GDP in purchasing power parity has already reached $77 trillion. That's according to IMF data for 2025. By the way, BRICS significantly outperform some other associations, including the Group of Seven.
The Group of Seven he's referring to, of course, is the G7. Canada, France, Germany, Italy, Japan, United Kingdom, and the United States. I think we can all agree that is some serious cachet that the Global South now has. And remember, Africa is a part of that community. Certainly Uganda and Nigeria are already members of BRICS, and many other African countries either have strong alliances with BRICS nations, or they're in the process to join BRICS nations directly. Yesterday, when Trump was asked about it, this was his response.
BRICS was set up to degenerate our dollar and take our dollar as the standard, take it off as the standard. And that's okay if they want to play that game, but I can play that game too. So anybody that's in BRICS is getting a 10% charge.
Is that immediate, sir? Or
Yeah,
is that
pretty soon.
If they engage in some behavior?
Well, if they're a member of BRICS, they're going to have to pay 10% tariff.
Now, hold on a minute. You mean to tell me there's a 10% tariff? What happened to the 100% tariff? Has Trump changed his tune?
Yeah, but BRICS was put there for a bad purpose. And most of those people they don't even want to talk about it now. They're afraid to talk about it because I told them if they want to play games with the dollar, then they're going to be hit with a 100% tariff the day they mention that they want to do it. And they will come back and say, we beg you not to do this.
Now, this is the point where the delusion I was talking about at the beginning starts to take place.
I thought BRICS was, I said this about a year ago, and it largely broke up But, there are a couple that hang around, but I thought it largely broke up.
What point did the BRICS largely break up?
At the summit in Kazan in Russia last October, a decision was taken to establish a category of partner states of our association in order to build concrete practical cooperation with all interested countries. And there are already 10 such countries today. I emphasize that the BRICS countries represent different development models, religions, distinctive civilizations, and cultures. At the same time, they all stand for equality and good neighborliness, for the priority of traditional values, high ideals of friendship and harmony, and seek to make a significant contribution to ensuring global stability and security, prosperity and well-being for all. Undoubtedly, it is precisely such constructive approaches and such a unified agenda that are in demand in the current challenging geopolitical climate. We can all see that fundamental changes are taking place in the world. The unipolar system of international relations that served the interests of the so-called Golden Billion is becoming a thing of the past. It's being replaced by a more equitable, multipolar world.
The summit that happened yesterday is the largest BRICS summit that there's been so far. And there's more nations at this summit than there's ever been before. But in the interest of being objectively fair, Putin didn't attend directly, and neither did Xi Jinping. So some are saying that this is a sign that the BRICS has weakness. But ladies and gentlemen, men lie, women lie, but numbers don't lie. The decline of the dollar is there. And the way that countries are diversifying away from the dollar is happening. It doesn't matter whether we say the BRICS are breaking up or not. The global south is changing the way they do business with each other. And whether the BRICS is a stepping stone to get there, or whether the BRICS becomes the de facto replacement of the United States, doesn't really matter. The actions of the global south is clear. They're frustrated with the way that America throws its weight around and treats the rest of the world. Certainly, from an African perspective, we are fed up with the decades of exploitative deals that do not benefit the African people to the same level that it benefits the Americans. So if Trump really believed that the BRICS is done and breaking up and it's over, why did he not say 100% tariffs like he did before with his chest? It shows he had to modify his position, and his position has evidently grown weaker. And here we get to the crux of the point. If America does not maintain its reserve currency status, it will be a massive blow. They will no longer be able to say that they are the #1 global power in the world. And by the way, Trump understands this very well.
And if we lost the world standard dollar, that would be like losing a war, a major world war. We would not be the same country any longer. We're not going to let that happen. The dollar, you ever hear the expression, dollar is king? The dollar is king. We're going to keep it that way, okay?
So it remains to be seen what the United States can do about it. Right now, Trump is doing his tariff policy, but that is also showing signs of weakness.
He sent letters to numerous trading partners with new headline tariff rates, updated from the previous high tariff rates that he stunned the world with on his big reveal back on April the 2nd. Although the deadline is now August the 1st, Financial Times observed that Scott Bessent often refers to September the 1st. And it said this: like the president himself, the administration's deadlines have to be taken seriously, but not literally. Seriously, because if Trump should decide to enforce a deadline, the impact could be seismic. Not literally, because he probably won't.
To me, this means he didn't get the deals he wanted. Countries didn't give him the deals that he was vying for. And this great tactic has to be walked back somewhat, especially when in the middle of all of that, China decided to make basically every African country have tariff-free exports to China. So it's all very well that the UK and America can stay firm and figure out their tariffs amongst themselves. But everything that those guys produce, more or less, they need the raw materials from the global south. Because Africa and the global south and the BRICS nations controls most of these big commodities, it's still yet to be seen how this tariff war is going to play out. And if Trump doesn't play it very carefully, it will accelerate what I think is the demise of the West, rather than bolster it, strengthen it, and keep it in place. Now, I have to be fair to Donald Trump. He inherited the financial system, the debt-based creation system, the system that sees an ever-increasing amount of debt that is mathematically impossible for the United States to ever pay back. Now, as long as the United States remains the reserve currency of the world, they can maintain this somewhat. But when you have a situation like during COVID, where the United States printed more dollars than they'd ever printed in the existence of the dollar in a 1-year time span, the valuation of the dollar goes down, and they were already on their 5th, 6th, 7th debt ceiling problem, where they have to change their debt standards so the country can afford to pay all of its federal commitments. Now, aside from the Global South and the BRICS nations, the EU even see this as an opportunity for them. This is the leader of the European Central Bank talking about their opportunity to take advantage as people diversify away from using the dollar.
Any change in the international order that leads to lower world trade or fragmentation into economic blocs will be detrimental to our economy. The changing landscape could open the door for the euro to play a greater international role. In fact, the euro's share of global export invoicing is already today as large as that of the US dollar. The euro will not gain influence by default. We will have to earn it.
The problem is that the EU is even in decline. They're in decline population-wise, and they're in decline economically. So they also don't have the same cachet that the Global South does. The Global South, however, is the opposite. Their demographics are growing. Africa in particular, the demographics are exploding. So regardless of what the Europeans do, they can only do so much, which is where we come back to the BRICS nations again. Here is a Brazilian financial journalist called Pepe Escobar, who covered the BRICS summit. This was one of his key takeaways.
The new development bank, NDB, can become BRICS cross-border settlement hub. This is absolutely key because this is a direct, straight to the point, sanction-proof alternative to SWIFT. And the Russians have been testing models about that since last year, way before the Kazan summit, even during the preparation of the Kazan summit. So the NDB, according to Silvanov, they can provide loan guarantees for all sorts of mega infrastructure projects all across the BRICS sphere. It can be in Iran, for instance. It can be in Nigeria. It can be in Indonesia. So then the NDB is going to start to work as a real alternative to the World Bank.
With the new development bank, the Global South is lining up the ability to be able to trade with each other without the dollar whatsoever. What happens then? This would be the major shift that the United States do not want. I'm always stunned by the arrogance of the United States, thinking that it is their right to be in charge of the world's currency. When you are the number one, when you're in charge, you have a responsibility to act in a righteous manner, to act in a way that benefits the team, that benefits everybody. And in fact, that is what they preach. They're always bringing freedom to the world, which is why they have all these military bases around the world. But the reality on the ground is much different. They are sneaky. They are manipulative. They do regime change operations. They do covert dealings.
The use of national currencies in mutual settlements should be further expanded. The establishment of an independent settlement and depository system in the BRICS platform seems to make currency transactions faster, more efficient and safer. By the way, the use of national currencies in trade between our states is steadily increasing. In 2024, the share of our national currency, the ruble, and the currencies of friendly countries in Russia's settlements with other BRICS states was 90%. The task of multiplying the volume of reciprocal investments by the member countries of the association, including through the BRICS mechanisms and, first of all, the new development bank, is also relevant.
So with the new development bank, Africa now has a tool via the BRICS nations to have an alternate option. And I think they will invariably use this option. I mean, it's a big question. What does all of this mean for the continent of Africa? What does it mean when the dollar starts crashing like we've seen at the beginning of this year? Well, there's some pros and some cons. Let's talk about them. As the dollar loses value, any African country that holds debt in dollars now has to pay back a devalued dollar, which is cheaper for them now. cheaper than at the point where they took on the debt. That's a positive. They also get to charge more for their commodities, be it oil. And in my mind, I'm thinking of gold, like Burkina Faso and Mali and Niger, building their refineries. The cost that they can charge will go up, not only because of the value addition that they're doing, but because of this situation with the dollar valuing down. But we still have to take a cold, hard look at the current reality, which is 57% of the world's central banks still hold their reserves in dollars. And that means that many African countries hold significant reserves in dollars. African nations are going to need to diversify out of this. This is where the New Development Bank comes in again. African countries should hold commodities like gold. They should hold Chinese currency. They should hold Russian currency. They should hold Indian currency. And in my opinion, they should also hold Bitcoin, cryptocurrency. African nations should work towards a single continental currency. I mean, that's what Gaddafi was organizing, and he was killed for it. Now, let's just think why he was killed for it. He was killed for it because it would not benefit the United States. This should let Africa know that that was the right path to take. Many African countries have considerable amounts of gold under the ground, untapped, ready to be mined. This would be a considerable war chest if we could take that gold and hold it in our own treasuries and back up a currency with it. Now, this might be very difficult and there's all sorts of implications for that. Maybe that's for another video. But in the meantime, we can work towards that with the BRICS nations. The devaluation of the dollar also reveals a situation where we're likely to be in a difficult transitional period, a period of uncertainty where if the dollar is not the safe haven of the world, people will scramble for other things. If the United States didn't think anything of it, they wouldn't have done anything about it. And we'd probably still have Gaddafi here today with us. And that can mess up trade, that can mess up all kinds of things. Donald Trump, of course, is adding to all of this uncertainty with his tariffs. So Africa is going to have to carefully navigate this, build some resilience outside of the United States economy. All in all, Africa should seize the moment, see this as an opportunity, see this as a time to elevate themselves on the global stage. We should be united. We shouldn't be fighting each other. We should be de-emphasizing the colonial borders. We should be siding with superpowers that have better deals than the previous colonial ones brought by the West and the Americans. But I could be wrong about all of this. If I am, I would love to hear what you have to say about it in the comment section. But if you have nothing to say, would it be too much for me to ask you to write the words "one African currency" in the comment section? It just lets me know that you watched the video to the end, you like what I'm doing, you like the channel, and you want me to continue. Thank you so much for watching today, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.